Welcome to the Back to Health podcast, where we share inspirational stories of hope to help you reclaim your health. If you're suffering from a chronic condition and have been given little to no hope, if you've been told that there's nothing wrong with you, but you know there definitely is something wrong, or if you're just trying to be preventative and want to know how to reclaim your health, then this podcast is for you. I can't wait to share today's episode. Hello and welcome to the Back to Health podcast. My guest today is here to talk all about changing your story to change your life. Now, Janine began her journey as a registered nurse, midwife, and psychiatric sister. Due to various health challenges, Janine began exploring alternative healthcare options, and it was her dad dying that opened Janine to owning her healing and psychic gifts. Helping women live their dream through understanding and healing themselves and how to move forward to their success is important to Janine. Janine enjoys movement, her podcast Mindset Alchemy, various forms of handcraft such as knitting, sewing, and crochet. Married to a wonderful, supportive husband, they have two gorgeous children and enjoy dreaming together. And today, she's here to share how you can dream too. Welcome to the show. Hi, Janine. Welcome to the show.
Hi there, Rishani. I'm so excited and delighted to be here. Thank you so much for your invitation and having me. How are you today?
I am good, and I am really excited and energized to really share your story, because your theme of changing your story to change your life is one that I really resonate with. Like, I really understand. I've sort of experienced and lived through this, if you like, that when you can actually mentally just reframe the way that you look at things and look at the world and the way that you interact with your surroundings and the world around you, however perfect or imperfect they may seem at any particular point, it's really possible to just really change the way that then your environment becomes. And I'm very excited for you to share your story and how you got to this point. So I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Rishani. Well, for me, when I was growing up, my mom had mental health issues. And as everybody's aware, it was not a recognized thing. And if you went to go and seek help, you were classified as not being socially as acceptable as you were before. And she had a full-blown depression, which nobody diagnosed, nobody picked up until I was in my teens. And I still remember I had the most fabulous tennis coach. And the one day he turned around to me and said, I have never met anybody as negative as you are at your age.
Wow.
To it. And it was, okay, it's just another person's point of view, it's just another judgment. Let's go on with it. And when I look back with hindsight, I think it would really have helped if he had said, this is what you're saying, change it to here. Then I also realized maybe he didn't know to say that. He didn't understand that, So it's these little serendipities and things in your life that you get to recognize. At the time, I also didn't understand I was an empath and a healer. I didn't understand that fully until many years later, in fact, 5 years ago. And if I tell you I'm in my late 50s, you will understand that there's a large gap between 10 years old and where I am now. And a lot has happened in between. And I was obviously taking on the energy of my mom and the family. There's a whole lot implicit in there. And it was only when my dad died a few years ago that I've been in self-development and positive thinking and all of this for many years. I have read Dale Carnegie. I have read, and the important thing is I read it. I didn't apply it in a way that was conducive to me changing. And yes, I did begin to change. Yes, I did begin to grow, and then life would come and I would go back to being. I don't know if you've had other guests who've experienced something similar to this.
I can speak to this myself. I mean, I see this pattern, and I see this pattern for myself, my clients, other guests that I've had on the podcast. We grow up with this notion of knowledge is power, and actually knowledge is nothing unless you actually apply it and take action. And so I've now made a point of not reading books that don't give you action steps. So if it's just like theory and it's all this nice fluffy stuff and it all sounds great and I love it, But unless you're giving me actual actions that I can go and take, then I've made a point of just, finding books that actually give you that, because yeah, you're right. I mean, we can read and you feel a bit better. And for maybe a day or two, you're sort of in that positive mindset because you're in the energy of the author and the book and everything you've been absorbing. And then, as you say, life comes and then you just revert back to your learnt behaviors, your learnt characteristics. But I'd really love to just go back a second to when you mentioned about how you as a child were carrying the energy of your mum and your family and those issues. I mean, I think this is one thing that I am very mindful of as a mother, that our children are in our energy. And so us having good mental health is not just about us, it's also about giving our children that gift of good mental health. Because if we're anxious, our children can feel that anxiety. If we are in fear, our children feel that fear. And that's not just an overt sort of, I'm anxious and I'm telling my kids I'm anxious. Children are able to pick up on the vibrational energy of their parents or adults, the important adults in their lives. So that could be teachers, that can be grandparents, that could be, wider family members, anyone in the community that they interact with. And so even when I choose things like extracurricular activities for my children, I'm very mindful of the energy of the teacher that they are in. It's not just about, yes, that's a great activity and yes, that's fine. But when they change teachers, I also then will reevaluate, like, do I want my child in that person's energy? Because that energy is so important for their overall well-being and their mental health. They may be a fantastic teacher, but if they do have negativity or they have a little bit of a cup half empty view of the world, I don't necessarily want my children in that energy, because that will impact their mental health. How long, and I know you mentioned it was like a few years ago when your dad passed away and you but how long did it take for you to realize or sort of understand that this wasn't your own energy and it was actually something that you were carrying? Because I think sometimes it's hard to detach, and it took me a long time to learn this as well, when as I was growing up, sort of saying, this anger or this negativity isn't mine, I'm holding somebody else's anger and negativity, and then I'm projecting that into the world. So I'm just interested to know, how long did it take for you to really get to that point?
Well, I really think it's a work in progress. I don't think we ever really get rid of it because, as you so rightly say, it's imprinted. And I would like to say, in Dale Carnegie and Wallace D. Wattles and all these people, they do give you action steps, but they don't always necessarily show you how to apply it. They also don't mention that energy you're talking about in a straight up in your face way. So for me, it was a step-by-step process of becoming aware, choosing to be conscious of, well, what did I actually read? What does it mean for me? And what is happening around me that I can apply it? And what happened with my dad's death was I suddenly realized that, oh my goodness, if my husband passes, I can't support my children and myself at the level we are living at now. We would take a substantial dip in our living standard. And this took me from running a very small, not very focused offline clinic where I wasn't always charging for my services, because after all, I just can do this. Surely everybody can do this. So how can I charge for something that's just natural? That was also a mindset shift and a half. And I started working with this, oh, let me take my business online. Let me see how I can go online. And through this, I too took my clinic and wellness online. I took my herbal knowledge online. I took myself I didn't even realize I was a healer, if I can put it in perspective for you. Never mind that I work with energy. I just knew I would touch people and they'd get better. I just knew that if they use certain herbs, and as I'm speaking to them, I would give them awareness and they would get better. I didn't understand the energy flow at that time. And so my business morphed from a very practical, non-energetic business. I started meeting people and I'd look at them and I'd say, oh, I can do what that person's doing. Oh my goodness, that person does that as well. And they call themselves a light worker. They call themselves an energy healer. Now, I've studied homeopathy. I have studied herbology, using herbs in healing. I've studied all of these things, and I do come from a medical background. So for me, I was linking everything. I didn't know there was something called integrative medicine. When I went online, I was open to all of these things. So it has been a step-by-step process for the last 5-6 years. And it's been so fascinating because I've been led from one person to the next. And each person gave me another piece of the puzzle of, number one, how to grow my business online. Number two, how to work with energy. I took online self-study courses. I joined programs. I went through a program called the Psychic Biz Academy, because I started realizing that no, people didn't always know things, and they didn't always know what other people were thinking or feeling. And that has been step by step. And guess what? I am still working with it. I'm still processing it. And this helps me with my clients as I make conscious what I have been doing unconsciously my entire life. So it's, when did I learn it? I think it's more having an awareness of how to focus and use it consciously more than anything else. And to hone the skill, instead of being the sunlight, start becoming a laser beam.
Yes. And actually, when you were just mentioning this, it made me think of this really amazing quote that, the best healers are still healing. And that
Yes.
that is such an important part of this, because if you go to somebody who's whole and complete, which I don't know that, anyone exists in that sort of realm, but someone who feels they are mostly whole and complete, how much can they relate to what you're going through? How much can they understand the process of healing? How much can they understand the energy and the mindset shifts and all those things that you have to go through? So sometimes when people are looking for healers, we sort of think, I want to look at that person who's got it all together, who's got that, that life, and they sorted this out, and their mindset and everything is totally strong. But it's like, no, you want to find the healer that you connect with energetically, and that may be somebody who's only a few steps ahead of you, but really
Yes.
understands what you have been through and can really talk you through, this is how you might feel, and that's okay, and then this may happen, and that's still okay, and they can guide you through that process. And how have you found that in your journey as a healer? Have you found that you've attracted clients who are very much sort of like in the same space as you are, and therefore it's been like the right healer at the right time? But also, how has that been for you? Like, has that also given you healing back to work with people like that as well?
Absolutely. Shani, I have a phrase that I use with my clients. We have experiences so that we can have experience. We have experiences so that we can put our experience into a context. And I will find, even before I consciously knew about this, my children would get chickenpox. And I knew I would have a whole host of people, and they would get it badly, like really badly. And then I would get the herbs and I would get the things. And this was a cycle I noticed in my life. And then I would have this whole host of people who would come to me who had had chicken pox as children and were now suffering the side effects of it as adults. And it would work like this. This is totally off the point, and I feel it's very relevant. When you were sharing that, my daughter was sharing with me something that I had said when she was a young child about somebody else's children. And this is where I've learned the value of be very careful of what you are saying and who's around you when you are saying, and don't even think it. There were some children bullying my son, and I'd made a disparaging comment about these young ladies. And my daughter took this comment on to herself because she was a very young lady at the same time. This only came out as she was going through her healing journey. And this is what I've come to experience as an experience to be able to help my clients. What was said that you took on board for yourself that was not meant for yourself. And let's go back to that level. Let's work at that level. Let's look at the cycles. And for me, it's understanding that everything has a relevancy, whether we understand it at the time or not. And I absolutely agree with you. Your clients are who you were 3 months ago, 6 months ago, and it may have happened 30 years ago. The relevancy comes forward 3 months ago, and then you will be able to help somebody with that relevancy, with that consciousness that may have happened 30 years ago, that you had the realization of 3 months ago to help this person at this time, which is the relevancy of my children would get chickenpox, and then I would have adults with the side effects of chickenpox they had 40 years ago. Does that make sense?
It makes so much sense to me, because just last weekend, I had a homeopathy client who, my son had quite a bad sort of cold, cough, and sort of, all those things. And so you can use homeopathy acutely as well as obviously chronically as well. And so she messaged me out of the blue saying, like, we're about to fly tomorrow, but my son's got all these symptoms. And I was just like, very, very interesting, because literally 2 days ago, this is what I was taking my son through as well. And they're similar ages. So, when you were mentioning that, that's why that came to me, because it's that pattern of, she asked me, and then 3 days later I had another client get in touch with exactly the same symptoms again. And obviously that's just something that's going round, but because I've been dealing with that particular situation, it was like, I'm now attracting those particular things. And similar to when I was going through my chronic fatigue and dealing with all of those types of things, the clients I would attract would be those sorts of clients who was like, I'm having these particular symptoms. And I've seen that as a pattern throughout my life, no matter what field of work I've been in, that where I've experienced something and I've then managed to solve, or understood what the issue was, suddenly I have all these people appear sort of saying, can you help me with this? Or I've got this issue, I've got that issue. And it's so interesting to me how the energy just sort of works together so well, that you've been through something, you've had an experience, as you say, and you're now able to use that experience to help other people. Whether in that moment that experience was positive to you or negative to you is sort of different. And that's one of the only ways, or one of the best ways, I should say, that I've been able to deal with some very difficult moments in my life where I'm going through an experience and I'm thinking, but I can use this. I know I will be able to use this in the future to help other people, whether that be my children or somebody else's children or a client or a family member or somebody else that is going through something similar. I know I'm going to be able to use this experience in the future. So even when I'm going through something, and it can be some of the hardest, darkest moments that you're having, I try to remind myself, but this is going to help somebody in the future. This is an experience that you are going to use, and that's why you're experiencing this right now. And I guess that's how. Go ahead.
So I was just going to say, as a mindset alchemist, that's how we work to shift the mindset from lead to gold. I use the phrases, things are always working out for me. How, when, and where does this get any better? And again, all of life comes to me with ease, with joy, and with absolute flow.
Yes.
And I like to see things not as good, not as bad. It's experience so that I have experience. So what you are saying there is just so spot on. It's how we learn to shift that energy. It's how we learn to, yes, this feels heavy. Am I using it to ground myself? Am I using it to keep myself invisible so that nobody can hurt me? What am I doing with this? And I love how you say, okay, where can I use this? Where am I to use this? Let me just pin a tail on it so I remember it, so that when it comes up from my client, I'm able to help them without my filter at a deep energetic level.
Yes. So one of my favorite mentors, he sort of says, everything is happening for you, especially when it doesn't feel like it. So especially when you feel like things are all against you and it feels like it's almost like destruction needs to happen before you can move beyond this point. That's especially when something is happening for you. And so it's about being open and embracing. And I don't know if you know the backstory of the reason why I started this podcast, but the reason was because my mum had severe side effects from the COVID vaccination. And so that particular weekend when we were going through all of this and, allopathically, the doctors were saying there's not really much we can do. She's going to be put on anticoagulants and hope for the best, but really there's nothing much more we can do to help her. And so sort of left to fend for yourself, I went into some of the communities and the forums where I know that there are sort of healers and more naturopathic sort of minded people, and sort of ask for help. Like, I just don't know, I'm lost. Like, can anyone come forward and give me some hope or some advice? I need someone to give me some hope right now. And so many wonderful people came forward with so much information and knowledge and power, and sort of, I've seen clients like this and this is how I've helped them, I've seen this and this is how I've helped them, and have hope because I've seen worse conditions and we've been able to like turn things around. And it sort of changed my whole mindset from being told there's nothing we can do and you're just gonna have to see what happens in the next few months, versus don't worry, there are things you can try and here you can go. And because there was this wealth of knowledge, and I very gratefully had access to this. It wasn't easy though. I did have to go searching. I did have to go asking. I did have to go and collate the research and then sort of go through everything and figure out what I was going to do. I was just thinking, but I'm experiencing this because I am sure there are many others in the coming months or already who are going to be in a similar situation to what me and my mum are in. And therefore, I'm going to collate all this knowledge and I'm going to collate all this wonderful information and the amazing human beings who are in this space and share this with the world so that there is hope that if you are going through something which you feel is working against you, or there's no hope, or you've tried everything that you know of, but you don't know where else to go, then I wanted this podcast to be a place where that's where people could find their information. And so that is really how I have taken that experience, if you like, of having to find answers in a very small amount of time and feeling very hopeless, to changing that whole mindset to being like, no, there's definitely hope and there's things we can do, but bringing that to everybody else at the same time as well, because I know there'll be lots of people out there listening who will unfortunately may find themselves in a similar situation to what I'm going through at the moment. So yeah.
Oh, that is so powerful, Shani. That is just beautiful. I'm sure you have been shown this. The minute there's a blood involvement, go and see where a person is afraid of life, where there's a fear in life, and where they feel their light has been dimmed. That's just what I'm getting for your mom and how it comes forward. And yes, people are open and willing. We don't wish to knock the medical system.
No.
And what I would like to say is that energy was around a lot longer than the medical system was. And when it's being used effectively and in conjunction, we can create miracles.
Yes.
And that for me is what is so powerful. You mentioning how you went searching and looking, and that is how I use my Success Spiral program, which has 4 steps. And it's to see where the person is on one of those 4 steps that we are able to work. Now, everybody has their own program. Everybody has their own modality. Everybody has everything. It comes down to what is that person's body saying to them? What is our body? Where's our body communicating with their body and supporting them? And we're all connected at a very deep energetic level. And thus we can share what is aligned and how it's aligned and what the reason is it's aligning with that at that point in time. So yes, you will go on to help other people through understand that maybe their filters were too hectic. How do they do this? And what did they come to experience? And why are they making it such a heavy experience rather than a light experience? Because you can have the same experience. You know, what's coming into my mind is I use this analogy with somebody on the weekend. You know, the flower of life, how you have a point and then you have the petals going. We are at this point of the petal. And it's, are we going to flow on the outside petal to the next point? Are we going to flow on the inside petal to the next point? Or are we going to go completely at 180 degrees and have to work from one point to the next point to the next point to get to the point directly above us? And it's which is the path we are choosing? How is it aligned for us? And where have we taken on that it has to be hard rather than effective? And when you help somebody with, when we are able to help people heal with the understanding, it doesn't have to be hard. Let's look for the easy. Let's look for the lie, take the lie out of the equation. Let's take the precept that we took on before the age of 7 and reshape it, reframe it, and change our story around it, that we are able to change the story. And that for me is what changing your story is about. I hear people say, oh, but it's going to be so hard. What if it's not? What if it's going to be easy? You saw how the information came to you. What if the information had been able to come to you already collated? We are not taught that. We are taught it has to be hard. It's got to be difficult. It's got to be intense. Okay, maybe intense when it's a pleasurable one. And what if it doesn't have to be? What if we can ask, where are the infinite possibilities? What are the infinite possibilities that you could easily collate it, gather it, so that your clients can have an easy recovery, an easy journey? Because let's be honest, most people refuse to look at death. And death is part of our experience of life. It can be the death of being a toddler, coming to being from an infant to a toddler. It can be the death of going from being a full-time mom to being an empty nester. There's all these small deaths along the way. What if we can make them easy? What if we can use that experience? I'm not saying, okay, let's just put a proviso for your audience and anybody listening to me. I am not saying there will not be work. The work can be effective and pleasurable. It can be you don't enjoy it, and yet you understand the importance of it, and therefore you have the energy and the strength to get through it in a much more effortless way. People are saying, are you saying I don't have to work hard? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there's still work. Let's make it effective.
Yes, I think that is so powerful. And just going through some of the questions that you just mentioned now, I think we are conditioned almost, or we grow up sort of believing that everything has to be so difficult. Like, if I need to get all of this and this and this and this that I don't know, it's going to be hard work. I'm going to have to go to multiple places. I'm going to have to put into it. But just as you say, it could be as easy as one person shows up that already has all of that information that you need and is able to just give you that information. Which a lot of the time I feel like that is where healers do come into play. Sometimes when you find the correct spiritual healer who is aligned with your situation, it just takes that one person to be able to shed light on all of the questions and answers that you've been looking for. It doesn't have to be as hard as I'll go to this person for this, and then I'll go to that person for that, and then I'll go to another person for something else. I wonder, like, in your experience, do you see that people really struggle to adapt to that notion of simplicity? Because I think some of the best lessons in life that I've ever learned is, if I just take my weight loss experience as an example, you do all these really hard workouts, you do the HIIT workout and all these things really grueling, and I have to wake up every day like 1 hour earlier than normal because I need to give myself 1 hour, and if you don't do it every at least 5 days out of 7 days, it's not going to be effective. This is what we're sort of taught to believe. And when I finally got to the point of just giving up with all the things I was trying because nothing was working, and I started doing just daily walks, more from it was a mental thing as well as a physical thing. But I just need to move. I just need to be doing something, but something that also releases in a way that's gentle for me. And then suddenly the weight just started falling off, and it was as simple as walking, and walking felt too simple to be the answer. It felt like the answer was all these complicated regimes and programs and measuring your food and all this stuff, which it was none of those things. It was actually just slowing down and just allowing my body to have a chance to breathe. But it's a hard mental shift to make, that something as simple as that can be the answer. So I don't know if you have any words of advice for how to actually understand that that is the way to sort of shift perspective, I guess.
Love that story, Rashani. Well done. Well done on realizing that when you follow the whisper takes us where we're meant to go. Maybe the whisper was aligned for you to connect pieces of puzzles so that other people could connect pieces. Well done on following the whisper your body was giving you of walking, because it's very often by stopping and in the morning saying, body, what would you like to do today? Soul, what would you have me do today? Where can we go out and play? Because when we bring in play, our inner child is satisfied in an absolutely beautiful, incredible way. And that inner child then stops trying to direct us and throwing temper tantrums. And through that, we absolutely are able to find the most aligned path. And we release the hard. What we bring in is the consistency of allowing our body and our being to flow, to be, to work. Oh, maybe I should go here today. Guess what? I meet that healer there today who leads me to the next person, who brings me back to myself. And I realize, oh my goodness, they've given me the puzzle. And guess what? I knew A, B, C, and D. By adding E and F to it, we get a complete hand. How amazing is that? How does life get any better than this? And we allow ourselves to ask the correct questions and listen to our body. And I so resonate with you with the weight loss, because I was doing gym and I was doing this and I was running and I was working out 3-4 hours and I was starving myself and I was getting fatter and fatter and fatter.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I realized I was taking on my husband's energy. I was taking on my client's energy. And I was taking on everybody's energy. And when we are fat, we are unseen. And I had to go and see where was the wounding around being seen. And I realized I'd been part of a business where women were told you can't be seen, make your husband the object of the limelight. Nonsense. And that was when I started, like you say, walking. I started learning to love myself. I then was led to lead a Healing Through Self-Love program. And as I curated and provided that, the fat, not the weight.
Yes.
My weight went up because I started building muscle. My fat started falling off. Guess what, Rashadi? 3 weeks ago, I doubled my size. And I went, no, 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 no. What's happening here energetically? And the full moon was coming. The new moon was coming. I had expanded something in my program. My husband expanded something in his business that required assistance. And he was drawing energy out of me that I was not consciously choosing to share. And I had to gain weight to ground myself. I had to gain fat to stay there. And I went, no, we're not doing this.
Yep.
Do you know, within a realization, within 3 days, I have started resculpting my body again. And I know I will be back to where I was 4 or 5 weeks ago in the next week through shifting my story. My story is I choose to be seen. I'm excited to be seen, and I only share energy consciously. Now, this is something I had to learn as a healer, to allow people's energies to flow through me, because when I was healing unconsciously, I was carrying everybody's energy, which wasn't helping me or them. And it was as I started learning to flow the energy through me, still with caring, still with love, still with compassion, and use the energy of the earth, of source, and the plants that were offering me energy, of the various elements in life that were offering energy. I didn't have to use mine. And I was able to renew my energy, which then allowed the fat to drop off of me because I did not have to ground myself. I was automatically grounded. And I was automatically earthing myself to release those excess electrons. If your audience don't know, when we're thinking, when we're creating, when we're healing, we build up electricity in our bodies, and it's to release that electricity instead of having to store it in fat on our bodies and let it go. That is how we change our story. I changed the story. I do not have to be fat to protect myself. I choose to be aware. I choose to consciously work with my clients, my family, and everybody. And this allows for things to work more effectively.
That is just so powerful, because I think this is the side of, as you say, fat release. We're not talking about weight, because weight can go up or down depending on when you're building muscle and everything else. And I've had the same experience. I've been releasing fat, and then the weight can sometimes go up, but that's because you're getting stronger and you're getting, there's a shift in that. But that is the side of fat release that so many people are not aware of. It's not just about the food. It's not just about the exercise. It's not just about balancing the two. There is an emotional and spiritual aspect to fat release. And I've never really been able to completely explain that to myself, and you've done it so beautifully just now. You've given me so much clarity on that, because I've always had that sort of inner inkling, and there's no scientific studies that go behind it and all that thing, when you sort of want to share these perspectives, but I've always had that inkling of, when I am in a conscious energy, when I have protected my energy, when I'm working with purpose and in alignment with what I want to do, the weight, no matter what I'm eating, doesn't really, there's no issue. And then when I'm out of alignment, when I am silencing myself, or I am sacrificing my purpose and what I want to do for others, that is when the weight will just pile, or the fat will just pile on. And no matter what I do, no matter how much I starve myself or eat well or whatever I do, it will just not release, because energetically I am holding on to all these things that I then have to release. And I have found this to be true so many times, because when I work on myself, or I've had a shift energetically, and I'm able to realign myself to sort of me and my true purpose and who I am and what I want to put out into the world without changing anything, the fat just like disappears, and I don't know what I've done. I'm not, apart from the mindset shift, I've not done anything else. And I'm not saying, obviously, do be healthy and do eat well and do the movement and do all those things. But even when I'm having off days because I'm stressed, or I just want to have that cake today, or whatever it might be, that doesn't affect my body because energetically I'm in the right sort of space. And you've given me so much clarity on that. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was very, very powerful for me.
You are so welcome. I really appreciate that you are able to receive that. And changing our stories is as simple as you being able to receive, me being able to give, me being able to receive. And it's that through flow that we only keep what is aligned with us at that time. And that is, you ask the question, do people battle with releasing hard? Yes, because that's what they've grown up with. They cannot believe things can be that simple.
Yeah.
And it's that simple. It really is that simple.
It is so funny, isn't it? I mean, yeah, it's one of those things. And I'm really going to try and think about how I can implement more of that with my kids, because I think they are also, when you're going through a school system and you're given, you must do lots of work to master a topic. You must do lots of this, or you must repeat your spellings, 50 times before you're able to master them. And actually, I think we need to break that sort of pattern of thinking, because why is it that you can't just look at it twice and be able to remember what's happening? Why is it that you are not able to understand be given a topic once or twice and then be able to understand it? Why must it be that you must do like this much work before you're able to be a master of something? I think that was something that when I was younger, really struggled with, because it was like, if I haven't done the whole workbook or whatever they've given me, I have not yet mastered this topic. Although some topics I may only have had to do it once and I would have understood it, and some topics I may have had to do 10 times because I didn't get the clarity. But as I grew older, and when I started doing more so more to like study for yourself, I started realizing that actually it doesn't have to be that hard. I can read this thing, absorb it, and take what I need from it right now. And I may revisit this in the future because there may be something different I need to take from it in the future. But for what I need right now, that's enough time. And so I think I finished one of these courses where it was a 10-month program, and I did it in 3 days, and I had a need for it because there was specific information that I wasn't doing it for the qualification. I was doing it because I wanted the knowledge and I needed to implement it quickly. So I was like, I had to condense that time. 3 days, I got all the information that I needed, and I was able to put that into application. And I'm not saying I got everything from the 10-month program. I can go back and revisit that, and in the future, if there's something else I need to take from it, I will take something else from it. But for what I needed in that moment, the 3 days was enough. And I think a lot of people would look at that and think, oh, how am I going to, that's a 10-month program, that's too long. How am I going to, do what I need to do if I'm going to be spending the next 10 months having to do this thing before I can do what I need to do? I don't know if you have any perspectives on that to share at all.
Oh, my dear, you are opening such a can of worms here. Are you ready for it?
I am so ready.
The answer lies in, what was the schooling system designed for?
Yes.
It was designed to entrain people to work in factories on rote, repetitive things. So how do you teach people to do that? You write the word out 30 times because you become conditioned that life, and I'm being very simplistic and very concrete here. It's a training to break people's spirit. Children are creative when they go to school.
Yep.
School should, I'm not knocking school teachers, and I'm not knocking schools. However, when you go and look at what they were formed for, it was put into perspective for me by a teacher from a country other than mine, who said to me, they have to put children back to school because it's the daycare center for parents in corporate and who have to work. So school is not there to teach our children. It's there to be the daycare center while we work. And it's a very interesting point of view that came forward. And I'd never thought of it like that. It truly is. Is it right? Is it wrong? I'm not saying it's right, and I'm not saying it's wrong. It is what it is. And I totally agree with you. We learn through experiential learning, and we don't get that in schools. So I think, for the safety of your podcast, we shall not go further with this subject, because I could get very controversial here. because of what my children experience, because of what I've experienced, and because of what has happened in life. All I can say to parents is go and look at what things were created for. It will give you a lot of answers that you may not like. So be prepared to accept a new paradigm and a new way of thinking. Do I have a solution for schools? No. Well, I do. I'm just not going to get into it here because we are all different. We're all unique and we've all come to learn different things. So what was the reason that child came to experience that experience, and where can it help them move forward? And where, when we tap into our bodies and our spirits and our souls, are we able to change the story of schools so that we can change our story?
Yes, I really do resonate so much with that. So I work in education, and this is one of my big sort of passions, is how do we change the way that we are teaching our children? How do we change that to be future ready education, or not even future ready, but even just for now? Like, how do we make the how do we make that education actually serve them, actually serve their minds, their bodies, their spirits? How do we make them think in a way that is actually setting them up for a really fulfilling and purposeful life, not where you get to your 20s and then you've got to try and undo all the conditioning that you've had for the last, like 15 to 18 years or whatever it might be. And we spend our adult lives, sort of searching for the answers, like, searching for how we should have, I wish it was like this and I wish it was like this. But coming back to your point, I also do take that we go through those particular experiences for a reason. And so they were in our journey and they were there for us to be able to understand. So, whatever I may have gone through when I was younger, or what my children will go through as they go through this, is an experience that is shaping them or shaping their worldview and the way they're thinking. So, I'm very much mindful of, I'm here to support and, enrich them in any way I can. And I will do all that I can to take the learnings I'm learning now as an adult, and I'm trying to give it to them now so that they're not having to wait till they get to adulthood to do that. But at the same time, we've got to understand there is this other, their journey is theirs, and so there's only so much you can do to sort of, you can give them and you can try and avoid things, but they do have to go through what they have to go through. And so you cannot stop what their journey is. And it's a hard thing as a parent, because you really want to protect your children. You don't want them to go through any of the pain that may be awaiting, because you've been through it. And a lot of myself, even thought about like homeschooling, like, shall we do homeschooling? Because I just don't want them to go into that sort of that area. And is it negative? Are they being conditioned to think negatively or in a limited sort of space? And should we do it a different way? And I am so in awe of the parents that homeschool, because it's something I've always I've always dreamed about. I've always wanted to. I've always fantasized about it. And then we were in lockdown for a year, and so we had to sort of semi-do it. And I would say, while I loved the amount of time I was spending with my kids and being able to add things to their curriculum that wasn't part of their curriculum, I did realize one thing, and it's that they would then be, just because, and I'm not saying this is true for all homeschooling children, because there are amazing parents who do so much to make sure that the community and the social connection is there. It's just, I struggle with this. So knowing my own limitations, I would feel that I would be putting a limitation on my children to be able to get the broader perspectives of outside our family and the way that we think and the way that we sort of see the world. I think it's important for children to also see lots of different perspectives and know how they counteract that in the world. And so sometimes not always having the same perspective as yourself is important. So, my daughter then did go back to school after a year of spending time with us to sort of have all these really amazing ideologies, and she'd flourished so much, and she became very entrepreneurial and was thinking about, what ventures she could set up even now at 6 years old. And then went to school and felt a little bit like no one really understands where I'm coming from. Like, no one really gets my point of view, because her thinking had evolved so much in that 1 year. But then I said to her, but that is the world. And your job is going to have to be to go out there and either convince the world or bring people along or find the people that do think like you and mold it to what you need it to be. So this is an important skill for you to go back to school now. And yes, none of those people, many of them may not think like you, but that is your challenge. Your challenge is to go out there and do that. So, while she first felt a bit deflated, like, I'm talking about these things that nobody understands, and that's okay, because everyone's different and everyone comes with a different understanding, but that is your challenge, and you have this understanding now, so you have a long time to be able to work on how you explore the challenge, and there's no pressure. Like, you don't have to do it right now. You can take 10 years to do it, you can take 5 years to do it, you can take 20 years to do it. You've got time. There's no pressure. But I wonder if you have like any insights of your own from sort of your children, and sort of what you've seen, and sort of what you may give as advice for other parents who might be listening.
Um, yes, it's just there's not enough time. The biggest advice is look at yourself. Look where your children are mirroring to you what you are thinking, what you are saying, and what you are feeling, because they cannot change and grow unless you change and grow, because they are there to mirror you. Also, and moms and dads, this is, I wish I had known this when my children were smaller. We push our energy through our children. So when is your child throwing a temper tantrum on your behalf? Where is your child saying a truth that you don't like because you are actually pushing your energy through it? I only realized this when my son was in his 20s. He would throw temper tantrums as a small child at a birthday party because I didn't know as an empath, because I didn't know that peace is a fundamental value of mine. He would have temper tantrums because I would literally push my temper tantrum through him. And it was when he's in 20s, I felt myself doing it when I came to learn what I know now. And he felt it as well. And he went, this isn't mine. So an important thing I can offer parents is to learn for themselves and for their children, as I've learned, to ask, whose is this? Whose thought is this? Whose feeling is this? Whose energy is this? And to use the phrase, I release all energies and emotions, thoughts and feelings that are not mine. You can also use there's a modality, access consciousness, that uses, I return to sender with consciousness and love attached. And even if it's yours, it will come back to you with consciousness and love, so you can deal with it. For me, did you feel your body becoming lighter as I said that to you?
Yes.
That is a gift we can give to our children, that they are able to release our energies, our thoughts, and our feelings, so that they can have their experience and not relive ours. And as we do that, we are able to, I release all energies and emotions not mine, because that is the beginning of changing our story, to change our story, that we begin to live our story and not somebody 4,000 kilometers away whose thought, feeling, and emotion we've picked up on. And now we're worrying about their worry. It's not even our worry. And we're then projecting it through our children. So they worry about a worry that's not our worry, that is somebody 4,000 kilometers away's worry. And if I can offer that to you, I also work with the 4 things of know intuitively, listen to our body, listen to life, listen to the word. Choose consciously. What thoughts, words, and actions are we choosing? Create intentionally. Look at what we are creating in our life and change it. And be effortlessly. And be yourself. Not somebody else's point of view of who you should be, can be, and would be. And it begins with listen to what our body is saying. Watch the cycles in our life. Release other people's energies, points of view, thoughts and feelings and energies, and start from that premise. Because when you teach your children to do that, they don't take on their teacher's anger. They don't take on their best friend's energy. And what are the infinite possibilities of us creating from a much better energy space choice? And magic happens as we shift that energy.
Oh, that is just so beautiful. And I am going to be teaching that to my children today, actually, when they come back. I think we will be going through and doing that exercise, because that is so, so powerful. And I have been worrying a lot especially over the last year, but definitely in the last few months when they've been back in an environment where energies are all mixed up, right? Because everyone's come with different emotions and different worldviews, and everyone has shifted. We've seen our children grow, I think, many years ahead of their time, because given the circumstances of the last year. So our children are, really developing their worldviews at a much faster rate than what we thought a year ago. We thought we had more time to sort of build and shape and give them experiences, but they've had an experience that no one could have foreseen. And I have been worrying about how does that affect their energy when I've been sending them back. They've been quite protected for the last year when they've been at home with us, because I have very mindfully curated what our mindset is and what our energy is at home and how we look at the situation and how I can put a positive spin on it for, not like overly positive, realistic, but positive. But what are the good that come out of this? But now thinking about they're going back out into the world, and how are those other energies sort of like affecting them and going against what they are, because I do see them come home so much more tired and so much more, because the whole day they're battling other people's energy, and not all of it is their own, and I can see how that's impacting on their health and their mindset. And so while they may not be conscious of it, because when I sort of say what like what's happening, what's everything sort of at a superficial level, everything's like, oh, it's a lot of work at school, or it's a lot I have to deal with, or whatever. I think subconsciously I know there's energy imprinting going on that I want to try and protect them from. So thank you so much for that. I hope that is really helpful and so powerful for any of the parents listening, or anyone that has children in their lives. Please do share this with them, because it's powerful for us as adults, but it's super powerful for our children who are just they're still forming, and we want to protect their energy as much as we possibly can. Janine, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast today. Where can people find you if they would love to learn more and get into your space?
Thank you for that opportunity. They can find me on my website, JanineKathleen.com. I am on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, all under Janine Kathleen, Janine, Kathleen with a K. And that's how they find me. And it would be wonderful to share more with your audience. And I appreciate the honor you did me having me on your show.
No,
Thank you.
The honor was all mine. Thank you. And we'll be making sure to add all the links in the episode show notes. So do be sure to check out Janine's work and do connect with her. I think, you'll find her space extremely powerful and extremely positive to be in. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. And for more episodes of the Back to Health podcast, you can check out the links in the show notes. We'll be back with another episode very soon. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you would like any of the links or the show notes, you can follow them in the description below. And for more episodes of the Back to Health podcast, please be sure to follow us on YouTube, or you can follow us on Spreaker, where we host our podcast. Thanks again, and I look forward to joining you for another episode of the Back to Health podcast. Until then, stay healthy, stay happy, and stay informed.